So it's now my distinct honor to welcome our next speaker. She is an international award-winning human rights activist, an author, a public speaker, singer-songwriter, Miss Canada, and Miss World's first runner-up 2003. She is also the president and co-founder of Stop Child Executions and the Nazanin Foundation. She obtained a BA in International Relations and Political Science, a master's in diplomacy, and an honorary doctorate of law. All of this, and she is a proud mother of 3. Please help me in welcoming Nazanin Afshin-Jam.
Thank you, Solidarity for a Democratic Iran, for hosting us today. Honorable members, cherished guests, supportive friends, we're here today to honor International Women's Day. Today I'm honored to speak on the overall condition of women from cradle to coffin globally, and then focus on the horrific treatment of women and girls under the Iranian regime. Those in the room from Iran are well aware of the oppressive conditions. My talk will be more aimed to those unfamiliar with the challenges women face in Iran. When I say from cradle to coffin, I literally mean when a female is conceived. When that X chromosome meets another X and combines, and a female is conceived, she is treated as a second-class citizen until her death. Upon finding out they're going to have a girl fetus, some parents perform infanticide, or more precisely, femicide. In China and India alone, an estimated 2 million baby girls go missing each year, either through sex-selective abortion or killed soon after birth. One woman in Vietnam who regularly dumpster dives said that in her lifetime she's found over 4,000 aborted female fetuses or baby girls. And what she does is gives them each proper burials. Baby girls lucky enough to be born into this world start to face discrimination at a young age compared to their brothers. Male children are often fed very well, they eat first, while the girls are given the secondary scraps. Boys are sent to school to receive an education, and girls are either forbidden from going to school or they're expected to stay home and do household chores. As a result, the physical and mental health of these girls are stunted. Men are expected to work and earn a wage, while women that enter the workforce are paid considerably less for the same job, even in Western developed countries like here in Canada. Throughout a woman's life, she is objectified and physically and sexually mistreated, abused, raped, sometimes as a weapon of war, as we've been seeing with the Yazidi women. Women are sold off, genitals mutilated. I believe the number is 87% of women in Egypt have undergone female genital mutilation. Trafficked, married as a child, like half of Yemeni girls, or imposed a forced marriage against her will. There are approximately 8,000 forced marriages in the UK every year. While it is terrible that this misogyny and discrimination still goes on in the 21st century, as far as women's rights are concerned, there have been incremental advances and gains in rights as a whole. However, unfortunately, this is not the case under the Islamic Republic of Iran, where women's rights have regressed. More than 2,500 years ago, women were leading armies into battle. Female Persian warriors recorded in history. Women were heads of cities and states in ancient Persia. They had top positions in ministries, courthouses, governmental departments, and administrations. Just to name a few, Pantay Artishbad was one of the all-time greatest Persian army commanders during the reign of Cyrus the Great. Apranik was a Persian Sassanid high-ranking commander in the army. Surah was a brilliant military strategist, during the Parthian dynasty. During the 7th century Arab conquest of Iran and the introduction of Islamist practices, women were set back. In the past 40 years since the Islamic Revolution and the establishment of a theocratic regime with a legal system based on Sharia law, women have particularly been restricted and repressed. The World Economic Report released a few months ago puts Iran among the 10 countries with the deepest gender gap, with a rank of 142 among 149 countries. Women are forbidden from becoming heads of state or ruling as judges in the courtroom. Women are considered too emotional to take on such leadership roles. Even Nobel Peace Laureate Shirin Ebadi, who practiced as a judge before the revolution, had her judgeship revoked after and reverted back as a lawyer. Women are restricted from obtaining a passport or travel without permission from their husbands or their fathers. Unfair rules favor men when it comes to divorce, inheritance, or custody of children. Until just very recently, women were not allowed to divorce unless they could prove that their husbands were abusive, insane, or impotent. Women are not allowed to attend sporting events and stadiums. They can't sing a soloist like our beautiful performer this evening, dance or be unveiled. Otherwise, they face arrest by the morality police. The symbol of justice is the balance, the tarazu. Justice is supposed to be blind, not blind to human rights, abuses, or criminality, but impartial and fair in its treatment of all, showing no favoritism. What is true of justice in Iran is neither balanced nor impartial, but heavily weighted against women. I often refer to Nazanin Afshin-Jam's case, which I discovered myself as a young woman, because it perfectly illustrates the legal discrimination that women face in Iran when it comes to even attempted murder and execution. One day, 17-year-old Nazanin was in a park with her 15-year-old niece when 3 men attacked them and tried to rape them. And out of self-defense, she stabbed one of the men who later died in hospital. But she wasn't treated as a victim of attempted rape. She was tried as a criminal and sentenced to death because, under Sharia law, which Iran's penal code is based on, she would have needed 4 male witnesses to justify that such an act was taking place, or the equivalent of 8 female witnesses, because under the law, the testimony of a woman is worth half of a man. Secondly, she was 17 years old at the time. Under the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights and the Charter of the Rights of the Child, in Iran, Iran is state party to these covenants, and it forbids the execution of anyone who's committed these offenses before the age of 18. However, as I said, Iran's laws are based on Sharia law, and they consider 9-year-old girls adults, although that's now changed to 13, and boys are adults at age 15 and thus criminally responsible for their actions at that age. Had it been the other way around, and he had stabbed her and she had died, it would have been unlikely that he would have gotten the death sentence because he would only have been taken half a life, because the life of a woman is worth half of a man under the law. In her case, it was a double-edged sword. Had she allowed the rape to take place, she could have still been charged with acts incompatible with chastity and been given 100 lashes, or had she been married, she could have been sentenced to death by stoning. Now, even the practice of stoning is unfair. Women are buried up until their necks, men are buried up until their waist. And the idea is that during stoning, when rocks are hurled at you until you die, if you so happen to get out of that situation, it's supposed to be that God, it's the will of God. So I guess God even favors males. What is so paradoxical is that Iranian women are not meek. If you ask most Iranian families, you will learn that the mothers are very strong characters in the family and rule the roost, either indirectly or directly. Women are highly intelligent, educated, hardworking, passionate. Unfortunately, in Iran, the laws lag behind the norms. This is why the regime in Iran is so deathly afraid of women. They know that the linchpin to change is the women change makers. If they allow an inch, a little crack, this will give way to a flood and drown them and their barbaric practices. There are 356 known female activists being held in the Islamic Republic of Iran jails, including writers, journalists, environmentalists, lawyers, religious and ethnic minorities. On International Women's Day, we remember and recognize them all, particularly those who are experiencing very poor health conditions and they don't have access to medical attention or help. I feel for the mothers, especially separated from their young children that are in jail because of ridiculous or trumped-up charges like Mariam Akbari Monfared, Nazanin Afshin-Jam, who's being used as a political pawn. One of my greatest heroines and role models, Nazanin Afshin-Jam, a human rights defender who epitomizes compassion, justice, bravery, and sacrifice. Sacrificing her time with loved ones to do what's right, to defend children, including the other jailed child rights activists and defenders, Atena Daemi and Nargis Mohammadi, who are also in jail right now. I just named a few. I mean, there's so many. We can talk about each case and how unfair they are. We already know Iranian women are a force to be reckoned with throughout the free world when they are given freedom and opportunity. They have achieved the top international recognized scholastic prizes in mathematics, engineering, physics, biomedical sciences, sports, culturally in film direction, acting, and even in space exploration. Generally speaking, when women are nourished, educated, allowed to live out their full capability and become economically independent, they prosper. And so their families prosper. And when the families prosper, their communities and nation flourish. The only way women will reach their full capability is to break from the misogynist Islamist regime. Reform has not and will not work. Reforms have only achieved a step forward and 2 steps back in Iran. Concentrating on women's rights and development will be the catalyst to advancing the movement of democracy in Iran and democratic institutions in a future-free Iran. I believe change will come as a result of a revolution for the people, by the people, and women will be at the forefront. These are the hopes for my daughter and sons, and all the sons and daughters of Iran. Happy International Women's Day.